Alone on the stairs at Smallwinds High sat a teenage boy eating his lunch. His name was Joel Smith, and this is where he ate every day. He did not have many friends apart from his younger brother Bob, who was still in middle school. Joel could see his fellow students walking through the hall, hanging out, eating together. He sighed and thought to himself he preferred being on his own anyway. Then he remembered why. He felt something bunk his head, a wad of paper. There were way too many kids to see where it came from, but he did see that asshole Devin and his friends laughing at the top of the stairs. Well, it was totally in Devin's character. Joel didn't see if it was actually him, so he decided to just ignore it. Maybe it was an accident or something, no big deal. Then he got hit again. Now he saw Devin quickly turning his back while his friends continued giggling. It was him. Joel felt a wave of anger crawling up his spine, but then he remembered the words of his mother. Joel, I know you get angry sometimes, but when that happens, try taking a deep breath and count to 10. So that's what he did. He took a deep breath and counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then another one hit his head. Joel turned around and stared at Devin with a fire only a teenage autistic boy can produce. He stood up and slowly started walking up the stairs. An hour later, Joel sat in front of the principal's office with his mom. Inside were Devin and his own mother. Joel couldn't hear what they were saying, but the noises didn't sound all too happy. A few minutes later they walked outside. Devin had a black eye and toilet paper stuffed in a giant swollen red nose. Seeing him like this, Joel had to fight to keep a smile forming on his face. But then Devin just looked at him with a grin, and Joel just knew that he was gonna be the one who was going to get in trouble, not Devin. That rat bastard! He could feel himself getting angry again. Then he and his mother were called in by the principal. Good afternoon, Mrs. Smith. I'm so sorry we had to call you here, but it has come to my attention that Joel has been in another fight. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. You can be assured that he's in big trouble when we get home. He started it, Joel yelled. He was throwing shit at me. I don't care who started it, the principal said sternly. You broke his nose. You should have just walked away. Walk away? I was just sitting there not doing anything. He shouldn't be throwing shit. Joel could feel tears swell up in his eyes. I don't care. Your response was wildly inappropriate, the principal said. Joel shot up from his seat. This is not the first time he did something like this. Usually I try to ignore it, but I can only take so much. He couldn't hold back his tears anymore. His mom put her hand on his knee and smiled. It's okay, sweetie. Why don't you just take a little breath? Joel took a deep breath and sank back into his chair. I'm afraid it's not okay. Joel, you are suspended for 1 week and you will apologize to Devin. What? He should be the one to apologize. You will apologize or be suspended for 2 weeks. Joel crossed his arms. Well, I'm not gonna apologize. His mom put her hands on his shoulder. Joel, just apologize. You're only making this so much harder on yourself. Joel sank deeper into his chair. No. Okay then, the principal wrote something down. From now on, you are not welcome in school grounds for 2 weeks. On the way home, Joel was still extremely angry, but also proud of himself for not apologizing. Apologies are meant to mean something, he thought to himself. His mom could see how upset he was and decided it was best to just let him cool off for a moment. It took a while, but eventually he calmed down. Hey, she started. Are you okay now? Joel took a deep breath. I think I am. That's good. This was Devin again, right? Yeah. Then after I'm done discussing some fitting consequences for you with your father, I'll call his mother to apologize. I already told you I am not apologizing. That's okay, you don't have to, she smiled at him. I will. Anyway, you got him good, didn't ya? Yeah, I did. Joel's eyes lit back up. He likes pretending he's tough, but he couldn't even knock my glasses off. His mom laughed, but then quickly put on a clearly fake angry face. No wait, I'm supposed to be the good mom. Bad child. They both laughed. They got home at the same time as Joel's younger brother, Bob. Hey, dickhead! Word around the school is you got in another fight. Did you finally get suspended? Yeah, for 2 fucking weeks. Language! Their mom yelled as she hung up her coat. Sorry! They both yelled at the same time. Bob turned to Joel and whispered, So you basically got 2 weeks of vacation? That's awesome. Yeah, I guess, Joel laughed. Oh no you didn't? Their mom could apparently hear them from the other side of the hall. I will make sure you don't fall behind, even a little. But Mom, their mom raised her hand and shook her head. No. Bob burst out laughing and at that moment their dad came home. Ah, Phil, perfect moment. We have something very important to discuss. Their mom walked over to kiss him. Yeah, we do. His voice sounded pained. Their mom stopped walking and her face became very serious. Oh no. Then she turned around to the kids smiling. Hey boys, why don't you go play outside? It's a beautiful day. Here's some money so you can get something to eat in the city. She pushed a $50 bill into Joel's hands. Okay. Joel looked at the money. Mom? Dad? What's going on? What are we even supposed to do outside? Bob asked. You could go to the beach. The water must be lovely. Your dad and I just think it would be better to discuss it with just the two of us. Bob and Joel looked at each other. Come on, boys, you heard your mother. Time to get going. Your mom and I need to talk. They grabbed their swimming trunks and their towels, but as they walked out, their mom said, Joel, make sure you take care of Bob for me. Yeah, I know. Bye, Joel said as he closed the door behind him. Bye, she said as the door was already closed. Bob was walking behind Joel. Hey, Joel, don't you think they were acting a little weird? Huh? Yeah, I don't know, but we got $50, so that's nice. Why would they need us gone to discuss your punishment? It's not as if you or I would have had any influence on what it would be. They're probably just gonna have sex or something, Joel laughed. Dude, gross. Listen, you're overthinking this. Your birthday is like a month, right? They're probably planning that. Maybe, but why did you have to go then? I don't know, I guess I just have to take care of my little brother. How old will you be again? 6? 7? 13, you prick. Nah, I think it's 5 actually. Come on, let's go to the beach. They got on a subway and headed there. They spent a while there, but Bob remained kind of uneasy the entire time. He frequently looked back in the direction they came from and generally just wasn't into it. Hey, is it alright if I go home? He asked after a while. Sure, fine by me, but we've not eaten anything yet. Joel was floating on his back. That's fine, I'll just grab the $50, get something and bring back the change. Bob swam towards the coast. Alright, see you later. Joel spent some more time floating on his back, enjoying the nice cool water surrounding him. However, what happened at school kept popping up in his head. Did he do something wrong? Did he go too far? Why was it always him? He was so lost in thought he barely even noticed the sun setting. But then out of nowhere the sky got blocked out by a bunch of water. A gigantic wave washed over him and pushed him under. He tried to swim back up, but the current was way too strong. He felt like he was being dragged every which way. He tumbled until he no longer knew which way was up, down, forward or backwards. Then his face hit the sand. He lay face first back on the beach. He coughed and gasped for air at the same time, coughing up a not insignificant amount of water. When he felt like he had finally regained his ability to breathe, he stood up and looked around. He was alone. He decided he had had enough of the beach. He was exhausted. He praised God in his mind for letting him live and went home. But as he took his first step, he immediately tripped and fell face first back into the sand. Fuck this day, he thought to himself. He looked and saw the thing he had tripped over was a big green crystal ball. He picked it up to look at it. It was light and gave off a mild glimmer. When suddenly the glow became more intense and energy flowed like little tentacles from the crystal into his body. The tentacles twisted around him and it felt like he was being pumped full of power. The glare had become blinding, but when it all died down, the entire ball was gone. He felt alive, strong, like he could be anything, and yet it felt like he was still missing a large part, as if he'd only been given a portion of what it could offer. But that feeling soon faded as he looked at himself. He was no longer wearing his swimming trunks, instead he wore a white coat with a green stripe running along the buttons, grey pants, big black boots and winged red gloves. Out of his fingers poked small but sharp claws, and he noticed he had a tiger's tail. He touched his face and felt it was hairy, so he ran over to the water and saw the tail wasn't the only part of him that was a tiger. His face had changed as well. Did he actually die in the wave? Are these the last neurons firing in the brain of a drowning man? Or had he just gone insane? He tried opening his eyes, but all that did was make him realize he could now see from every part of his body, not just his eyes. He felt unstable, like he could fall apart into a million pieces at any moment. He fell into the sand and started hyperventilating. A wave of dread, larger than the one he had just escaped from, fell over his body. He was panicking. What was going on? What is this? What do I do? He looked at what was left of the sunset, as if when it was down it would all be over. But it just got dark. Once the sun was fully under, he heard Bob's voice. Bob was calling for him. Joel quickly jumped behind some bushes. He didn't want Bob to seem like this. What would he think? He'd probably be terrified. Oh, how he wished he could just return to his normal self. Bob seemed frustrated and worried at the same time. He looked at Joel's stuff on the beach and then at the ocean, not seeing him anywhere. Bob started looking around and yelling Joel's name increasingly frantically. After a short time, Joel picked up enough courage to show himself. He stepped from the bushes. Hey Bob, I'm here. It's me, I swear. Where were you, you fucking dick? Bob ran over to him. You almost had me worried for a sec. Joel was shocked that Bob didn't even seem to notice that Joel didn't look like himself at all. But when he looked down at his body, he saw that it was completely back to normal. What the? Bob looked confused. What? I think I almost drowned and hallucinated I became a tiger man, I guess? You almost drowned? Are you alright? I think I am now, but that was weird. So here's the rest of the money, I guess, or do you just want to go home? Yeah, I'm not hungry anymore, Joel laughed. It looks like I'm the one who needs to take care of you. Okay, so there was this massive wave, right? While Joel told Bob what had happened, they started walking back home. They were joking around, having a good time, but as soon as they reached their apartment, they saw smoke coming from the top floor. Their floor. Joel ran inside. Stay here! Call the fire department! He slammed on every door, yelling about the fire. He ran and never slowed down, but his arm seemed to reach every door he ran past. Once he reached his own door, he ripped it open and flames almost immediately burst out of the room. They did touch him and it did hurt, yet every wound they caused healed near instantly. He had to find his parents. He searched through his apartment frantically, looking in every room, calling them, but when he started hoping they may not have been home, he found them. Two burnt corpses embracing each other. He fell to his knees and wept. After a short time he grabbed them and carried them outside, tears still streaming down his face. Fire had spread through the entire building, but at least it seemed empty now. Once he reached outside, he saw his neighbors had all escaped the flames. Everyone was standing on the other side of the road, looking at the fire. He saw Bob and walked over to him. Bob saw the bodies and his face went blank. No. Joel laid them on the ground. I wasn't fast enough. I'm sorry. Bob walked over to the burned remains but didn't dare touch them. Joe could see the tears flowing down Bob's face, but before he could say anything, time seemed to slow down to a crawl around him. Behind him he could see the walls of the apartment building cracking and fire spouted from the cracks. The building was exploding. Joel desperately looked around for anything, but he could only quickly wrap himself around Bob as fire and rubble overtook them and the entire street. Then, everything went dark. After an unknown amount of time, Joe woke up. He pushed the rubble off him and saw Bob laying below him. He was still unconscious, but alive. That was all that mattered. He looked up at the destruction. The building was completely gone. All their memories, their home, there was nothing left. But where were his neighbors? He wanted to start looking, but then he heard sirens. At the end of the street he could see firefighters and police. Joe ran over to them to ask for help, but the officers all immediately pulled out their guns. Hold it right there! He immediately froze and put up his hand. What was this? Why did they look scared of him? He looked down and noticed he was the tiger again. He tried to say something, but before he could, there was a loud bang and a bullet entered his skull. As his head hit the rubble, something inside him broke. It was as if all the stress and trauma of today finally managed to flood his mental dams. For a moment he just lay there, letting it all boil up until he let out a loud roar and shot back up on his feet. He spit out the bullets and charged at the cops at a speed they could barely even react to. It was as if his body moved on its own. His pupils had become mere slits and the whites of his eyes became green and yellow, covered in thick black veins. His arm shot forward into the chests of several cops on either side of the group, as the rest of his body turned into a giant wave of lava covering everything else in the middle. The remaining cops either fled or panicked and unloaded their guns into him. Joe couldn't feel anything anymore except anger. He noticed some of the fleeing cops and jumped into the air, turned into a giant anvil once he was on top of them, crushing them all. During all this, most of the firefighters had been caught in the destruction, and all the others had fled. There was just one cop remaining. One of his legs had burned away in the lava and he tried to crawl away, but Joel walked over to him and stepped on his back. The cop cried out in pain, but he was stuck. Joel turned the top of his foot into a propulsion system, ready to fire it up, but then he heard a scream coming from the rubble. Bob had woken up and saw the carnage. Joel lit up the propulsion system, shooting his foot straight to the cop's chest, and charged at Bob. His arms raised and fingers turned to the knives, but a mere inch before they would slice clean through Bob, Joel stopped. He was breathing heavily and looked around him, dazed. His eyes turned normal again. Then he saw his own body covered in other people's blood. He looked behind him and saw the ruin he had caused. Oh no. He took a step backwards and fell to the ground. Bob, I'm sorry. Bob just stood there frozen in fear. Then Joel shot back up and Bob braced himself again. But Joel just fled. His own guilt too much to stomach, leaving Bob alone in the darkness except for the sirens of additional cop cars approaching the scene. Joel turned into a rat and crawled into the sewers. After running through them for a while, he crawled back out into a dark alley. He turned back into his tiger form and sat down against the wall. He looked at his hand, which was distorting into all sorts of shapes. What's happening to me? What's going on? He broke down crying, begging God for all of this to just not be real, that he could just wake up in his own bed, eat breakfast with his family. But he opened his eyes and was still in the same dark, dirty alley. Then he heard someone whisper, "Wow, He looked up and saw a small girl hiding behind a dumpster, barely visible in the shadows. "Stay away, kid! I'm bad!" She excitedly hopped from behind the dumpster. She was wearing a t-shirt meant for adults and was carrying a dirty teddy bear. "Pretty kitty!" He turned into a large monster and roared to scare her off, but her eyes just filled with wonderment. "Scary kitty!" She grabbed him by the hand and tried pulling him deeper into the alleyway. What is wrong with this kid? He thought to himself. She got frustrated that he wasn't moving, so she ran around him and started pushing him. "Kitty, come! Kid, I'm not safe!" He could have just left, it would have been easy, but something compelled him to go with her. They came to a door at the end of the alleyway which the girls struggled to open, but once it revealed a messed up room that looked like it had been abandoned in a hurry. "What is this place?" Joel walked in and kneeled to be at the same height as the girl. "My house." "You live here? Where are your parents?" "I don't have parents." "You don't have Then who's taking care of you?" "Uncle Davis and Uncle Michael." Then where are they?" "They're gone for, this many nights." She held up 7 fingers. "You've been alone for a week? You poor child. I'll wait with you until they return. And when they do, they better have a good explanation. Otherwise, they might find out why I'm bad." The girl's eyes sparkled with happiness as she hugged him immediately. "I love you, kitty." Joel patted her head. "I love you too. My name is Faz, by the way. What's yours?" "I'm Anna. Wanna see my room?" "Of course, show me." She led him to one of the 5 doors surrounding the central room, the one on the back left, and when she opened the door, Faz saw the biggest indescribable horrors. The things that happened in this room must have been unspeakable. He quickly closed the door. "You are not sleeping there anymore." "Why not?" "I have something better for you." He turned his arm into a large, cozy, king-sized bed. "Look, this is for you." "Whoa!" She climbed into the bed and started laughing and jumping on it. "Anna, it's late. It's about time for you to go to sleep." She stopped jumping and looked very disappointed. "But I'm not tired. I wanna play." "We'll play tomorrow after I'm done cleaning this place up. Promise?" "Promise." Anna quickly dove under the covers and fell asleep almost instantly. Now Fez realized that he made his arm the bed and was just kinda stuck like this. So he sat down next to the bed and looked at his arm. "Shit," he thought to himself. But then he got an idea. He turned his other arm into a blade and sliced through his bed arm. It hurt like hell and he had to use all his willpower to stay quiet enough to not wake Anna. But the bed stayed and he was loose. He crawled up in front of the bed on the carpet and tried to fall asleep. For a moment he had been distracted from this horrible day, but now it all came flooding back to his mind. He stayed awake all night.